Three relatives of Americans killed by immigrants living in the United States illegally will attend President Trump's first address before Congress on Tuesday, signaling his plans to showcase his administration's early efforts to crack down on immigration as a security issue. Jamie Ailshaw Sr., whose 17-year-old son was shot and killed in 2008 by a man who was in the country illegally, will be among the 6 guests sitting with the First Lady, Melania Trump, during the speech. Mr. Shaw became one of the most vocal advocates of Mr. Trump's tough stance on immigration during his presidential run, appearing in a television ad on his behalf and giving a primetime speech at the Republican National Convention. Mrs. Trump will also be joined by Jessica Davis and Susan Oliver, the wives of 2 California police officers who were killed in the line of duty by a Mexican immigrant who was also in the country illegally. The officers, Michael Davis Jr. and Danny Oliver, were shot and killed in 2014. The release of Mr. Trump's guest list comes as the president prepares to argue that, despite serious accusations about his administration's relationship with Russia, the botched rollout of a travel ban with 7 majority Muslim nations and other problems, he is following through on key campaign promises, particularly on illegal immigration and national security. The president's guests at a joint session of Congress are typically reflective of the administration's priorities. Presidents often reference their guests during their addresses, sometimes using their personal stories to illustrate their points. Mr. Trump's emphasis on the victims of crimes committed by those in the country illegally offers a sharp contrast to President Barack Obama's final State of the Union address last year, when his guest list included a Syrian refugee and a Mexican immigrant who came to the United States illegally and went on to serve in the United States Army. Many congressional Democrats have announced they will bring their own guests to counter Mr. Trump's messages, including immigrants who would suffer under his policies and people who have benefited from the Affordable Care Act, Mr. Obama's signature healthcare law that Mr. Trump and Republicans are working to dismantle. Also seated near the First Lady will be Maureen McCarthy Scalia, the wife of the Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, who died a year ago. After a bitter, protracted Senate fight last year over Republican efforts to hold the seat open for the next president, Mr. Trump last month nominated Judge Neil M. Gorsuch to succeed Justice Scalia. Mr. Gorsuch's confirmation hearing is scheduled to begin on March 20. Meghan Crowley, whose rare genetic disorder, known as Pompe disease, prompted her father to start a pharmaceutical company in search of a cure, will also attend, as will Danisha Merriweather, who became the first in her family to graduate from high school and college after benefiting from the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship Program.